Every hero has a villain worthy of them. Hercules had the Hydra. Hamlet had Claudius. Batman has the Joker. These are not just enemies, they are mirrors. They show us what the hero could have been if one choice had been made differently. Sherlock Holmes has Professor James Moriarty, and today we tell the story of their final meeting. I want to warn you before we begin. This episode is different from all the others. There is no client at Baker Street, no locked room, no body on the floor. There is no puzzle to solve. Or rather, the puzzle has already been solved. Holmes knows who the criminal is. He knows everything. The question is whether knowing is enough. This is The Final Problem, published in 1893. And when Arthur Conan Doyle wrote it, he genuinely intended it to be the last Sherlock Holmes story ever written. He was tired of Holmes. He wanted to write other things. So he killed him. The public reaction was extraordinary. People in London wore black armbands in the street, mourning clothes, as if a real person had died. Conan Doyle received thousands of angry letters. His own mother wrote to him. One woman stopped him on the street and hit him with her umbrella. He brought Holmes back eventually. But we will get to that. First, the ending. Let's begin. It is April 1891. Watson is at his medical practice when Holmes arrives, unexpectedly, urgently, coming in through the back window rather than the front door. Watson stares at him. Holmes has never come through the back window before. Holmes's face is tense. He moves through the room quickly, checking the windows, glancing into the street below before stepping back from the glass. There are 2 fresh cuts on his hand. Recent. Barely treated. "Are you all right?" Watson asks. "For the moment." Holmes sits down. He takes a breath. And then he says something Watson has never heard him say before. "Watson, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully, because we may not have much time." For the past 3 years, Holmes says, "I have been working on a single case. Not a single murder, not a single theft, a single criminal organization. The largest, most sophisticated criminal network in the history of England. And at its center, one man. His name is Professor James Moriarty. He is 60 years old. He was a professor of mathematics at a university. He published at 21 a paper on the binomial theorem that was discussed across Europe. He is one of the finest mathematical minds of this century. He is also, Holmes says quietly, the organizer of half the crime in London, perhaps more. Every significant robbery in the past 5 years. Moriarty planned it, or knew of it, or took a percentage. The man sits at the center of an enormous web, and he himself does almost nothing. He never carries a weapon. He is rarely near the actual crime. He simply thinks, he plans, he coordinates. He is the Napoleon of crime, Watson. That is not a dramatic phrase. It is a precise one. Like Napoleon, he has built a system, an organization so complex and so carefully structured that removing any one part of it does nothing. The system continues. The crimes continue. The money flows to him, and his hands remain completely clean. 3 months ago, I began to build a case. Not against his agents, against him personally. Evidence that places him directly at the center of this organization. Enough to bring him to trial. Enough to convict him. "And you've succeeded?" Watson asks. "In 3 days, the police will move. Moriarty's entire organization will be arrested simultaneously across London. Everything is ready." Watson feels a surge of relief. "Then it's over." Holmes shakes his head. "This morning, Moriarty came to Baker Street, in person. He sat in my armchair, Watson. exactly as you are sitting now. And he told me, very calmly and very politely, that if I did not abandon this case immediately, he would destroy me. He sat in your chair, Watson says slowly. He came to your home. He is not afraid of me. He has never been afraid of me. That is the most remarkable thing about him. Holmes stands up and begins to pace. He said I was a man of excellent abilities. He said he regretted the conflict between us. He said it as if we were two businessmen on opposite sides of a commercial dispute. And his threat? He would ruin my reputation. He would destroy your career, your good name. He would harm Mrs. Hudson. He would, if necessary, kill me. Holmes stops pacing. Not angrily, not emotionally. Simply as a statement of what would happen, the way you might state that rain causes flooding. Cause and effect. What did you say to him? Holmes almost smiles. I told him to do his worst. And here is what has already happened since that meeting this morning. Holmes has been nearly run over by a carriage, twice. Both times the carriage was moving deliberately toward him. A man threw a stone at him from a rooftop. The cuts on his hand are from a window broken by a thrown rock. Moments after he stepped away from it, Moriarty moves quickly. He does not wait. The arrests cannot happen for 3 more days. Holmes says, for 3 days, I need to not be in London. He looks at Watson. I am asking you to come with me. Watson doesn't hesitate. Of course. Holmes gives precise instructions. They will travel separately. They will meet at Victoria Station tomorrow morning. They will travel to the continent and stay there until the arrests have been made and Moriarty's network is dismantled. Watson goes home to pack. He does what he always does when Holmes asks for help. He goes. The next morning at Victoria Station, Watson arrives to find Holmes already there, in disguise. An elderly Italian priest this time. He barely recognizes him. They travel to Paris, then south, the Swiss Alps in spring. Extraordinary scenery. The mountains still carrying snow at the peaks. The valleys below just beginning to show green. For several days it is almost peaceful. They walk. They stay at small hotels. Holmes is more relaxed than Watson has seen him in years. The end of a case is in sight. 3 years of work almost complete. From Paris they receive telegrams. The operation is proceeding. Moriarty's network is being taken down piece by piece. Dozens of arrests. The organization is collapsing. But Moriarty himself has not been found. Holmes reads this telegram and is very still for a moment. Then he folds it and puts it in his pocket. He got out, Watson says. Yes, the others are taken, the entire network. But he left England before the arrests. He is somewhere on the continent. Holmes looks up at the mountains around them. And he is coming here. He has nothing left now. His organization is destroyed. His money will be seized. His life's work is finished. Holmes is very calm. Calm in the way Watson has learned to associate with something serious. There is only one thing left he can do. Watson thinks, I have my revolver. They continue south through Switzerland, through small towns and mountain passes. The scenery is breathtaking and Watson barely notices it. He is watching the roads behind them. The other guests at each hotel, every carriage that passes. 3 days later, they reach the village of Meiringen. The local hotel owner tells them about a natural wonder nearby, the Reichenbach Falls. The water falls nearly 300 feet into a gorge below. The sound can be heard from a mile away. Holmes and Watson agree to visit the falls the following afternoon. They walk to the falls on a path above the gorge. The sound grows as they approach, a deep continuous roar that fills the air. The spray reaches them before they can see the water. And then they round a bend, and there it is. The Reichenbach Falls, a vast column of white water dropping into a churning pool far below, surrounded by black rock and mist. Watson stands at the edge of the path and looks down. The gorge is 100 feet deep, perhaps more. The water below is invisible, just white foam and spray, and the endless, enormous sound. He turns to say something to Holmes. Holmes is reading a note. A hotel boy has come up the path behind them with a message. A young English woman has arrived at the hotel extremely ill and is asking urgently for a doctor. Watson is a doctor. He cannot refuse. Go, Holmes says. I'll wait here and enjoy the view. Watson goes back down the path. He walks quickly to the hotel. He asks for the Englishwoman. There is no Englishwoman. The hotel owner is confused. He sent no message. He has no ill English guest. Watson feels the cold drop of understanding. He turns and runs back up the path. He runs as fast as he can on the uneven mountain track. Back around the bend, back to the overlook above the gorge. Back to the place where the sound of the falls fills everything, and the spray catches the light in rainbows. Holmes is not there. The path is empty. Watson looks around. He calls out. No answer, or rather no answer that can be heard over the roar of the falls. And then he sees them. On the muddy edge of the path, at the point where the rock falls away to the gorge below, two sets of footprints, leading to the edge, not leading back. And on the ground, held down by Watson's own tobacco pouch, filled with small stones to weigh it down, a letter. In Holmes's handwriting, Watson picks it up. His hands are shaking, though he will not admit this to himself. My dear Watson, I write these few lines through the courtesy of Mr. Moriarty, who awaits my convenience for the final discussion, which will necessarily be fatal to one or both of us. Watson stops, reads that sentence again. He has been absolutely fair. I could not ask him to do otherwise. I have already told you that he is a remarkable man. The work itself is complete. The rest of the network is in custody. It has only been in the matter of my personal safety that I have been outmaneuvered. I have no doubt that I shall meet my end at the falls. But please be assured that I go to my death, if that is what this is, with a full understanding that I take with me the most dangerous man in Europe. This thought, I confess, gives me some comfort. I am not a man of sentiment, Watson. You know that. But I want you to know that the years we have shared at Baker Street have been the best I have known. You have been the one constant in a life that has required a great deal of inconstancy. Please give my regards to Mrs. Hudson. Yours, Sherlock Holmes. Watson folds the letter. He looks at the footprints, two sets, both ending at the edge. The mud at the rim of the path is disturbed. A struggle, brief and violent and final. He looks over the edge. Far below in the churning white water at the base of the falls, there is nothing visible. The gorge is too deep, the water too violent, the spray too thick. He stands there for a long time. The falls roar on. The mountains are indifferent. The path is empty. Sherlock Holmes, the most brilliant mind in England, the consulting detective of Baker Street, the man who solved the unsolvable, is gone. Now, I have to tell you what happened next, because this is not quite the ending. The public reaction when this story was published in December 1893 was extraordinary. Magazines lost tens of thousands of subscribers. People had become genuinely attached to Holmes, not as a character in a story, as a real person, someone they felt they knew. And Conan Doyle, initially defiant, eventually After 8 years and enormous financial pressure, brought Holmes back. In 1903, he published The Adventure of the Empty House, in which Holmes reappears alive at Watson's door. He had survived. He had faked his own death. He had spent 3 years traveling in secret, dismantling the last remnants of Moriarty's organization. Watson in the story faints. The only time Watson faints in all of the Holmes stories. 3 years of grief and silence. And then the door opens and there stands Holmes, entirely alive, explaining himself with characteristic briskness. Watson faints, which tells you everything about what those 3 years cost him, and everything about what the friendship meant. But that is a story for another day. Today we sit with the ending as Conan Doyle first intended it. 2 men at the edge of a waterfall, a letter written in the knowledge that it might be the last thing Holmes ever wrote. 2 sets of footprints leading to the edge and not coming back, and the falls roaring on. Before we finish, I want to say something about Professor Moriarty, because he is one of the most important villains in English literature. Moriarty appears in this story for only a few pages. He has very little dialogue. We never see him commit a crime. And yet, he is terrifying. Why? Because he is Holmes's equal, perhaps his superior. Everything that makes Holmes remarkable, the intelligence, the analytical mind, the ability to see patterns that others cannot. Moriarty has all of it, but where Holmes uses his gifts to solve crimes and protect people, Moriarty uses his gifts to commit crimes and exploit people. They are the same man walking in opposite directions. In English, we sometimes call this a foil, a character who contrasts with the main character to highlight the main character's qualities. The word foil comes from the old practice of placing a thin sheet of shiny metal behind a gemstone to make the gem's color appear more vivid. Moriarty is Holmes's foil. Because of Moriarty, we understand Holmes more clearly. This is also why Holmes's letter at the falls is so moving. Holmes is not a man of sentiment, as he says himself, but in those last lines, the best years I have known, we understand that Watson is the thing that anchored him. The one person who made the work mean something. Beyond intellectual satisfaction, the foil reveals the gem. The contrast makes the truth visible. Here is something to think about. Moriarty never appears before Holmes describes him to Watson. We experience him entirely through Holmes's perspective. Do you think this makes him more frightening or less? Does it matter that we never truly see him ourselves? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Next time, we skip forward, past the falls, past the 3 years of silence, to a story set on the dark, foggy moors of Devon. A family is being terrorized by something they cannot explain. A legend of a monstrous hound. A man found dead on the moor with an expression of pure terror on his face. And the question at the center of it all, is the horror natural or supernatural? That story is called The Hound of the Baskervilles. It is the most famous Sherlock Holmes story ever written. I'll see you there.